Thank you very much, Donald. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, just want to welcome you to our full council meeting today. And before I start the meeting properly, I'd just like to pass on my thanks and those of my family to all my council colleagues, to the council officers, and to all members of the staff of Angus Council who have given us great support, sent lovely cards and messages over the loss of my wife, Sonia. So thank you everybody for that. We'll now go on to the meeting properly. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Provost, from Councillor Lumgear.
Okay. Item 2, declarations of interest. Can we have notes of declarations of interest, please?
I've got my hand up, Provost. May I speak?
Yes, by all means.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Provost. I have wished to declare an interest for item 8 because I've got to know Mr. Gill quite well over the recent past. And although that would not have affected the way I vote or my views on the matter, I think it might have been perceived as doing so. So I will leave the meeting and not vote.
Okay. Others? I can't see
I
any.
also have my hand up, Provost.
Yeah.
Item 5, I'm a council appointed member of the Angus Health and Social Care Partnership IGB with a specific exclusion, and will therefore remain in and discuss and vote if required. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Councillor McLaren.
Yes, thank you, Provost. I declare a non-financial interest in item 9, report 140/21. I have a high street business. I therefore will not take part in any discussion or voting and will leave the meeting.
Okay. Anyone else? I can't see any hand, unfortunately. I don't know why.
Provost, Councillor Speed has her hand raised.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Speed, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Provost. Just like Julie, Councillor Bell, in terms of my place within the IGB. But I will take part in discussion and voting.
Okay. Anyone else?
Provost, I think Councillor Brown's trying to get your attention.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Yes, item 8, same as Councillor McMillan Douglas. I'll take no part in the discussion and I'll leave the room.
Okay.
Provost, could I ask Councillor Brown to clarify what the nature of his interest is?
Nature for my interest, it's well, there's one, maybe one or two. I'm on the board of the Forfar Athletic Trust, who are behind, or one of those behind this Lochside Leisure Centre acquisition.
Okay, Mr. McCaskill, is that satisfied with that?
Well, it's really for the member to be satisfied. I think I was just asking for him to clarify the nature, and that will be recorded in the minute, Provost.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with a declaration of interest?
Yeah, yes, Provost. Well, to my mind, I'm a member of the IGB as well, but I don't think it's declarable in the matter that's coming up in item 5. But I will remain in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'm sorry, I can't see any hands on my screen. That's why I've not been able to call you forward, and I've had to rely on Mr. McCaskill. Okay. Thank you very much. That is all the declarations of interest. I'd just like to advise you that Diana Finlay, who is the chair of the Scottish Older People's Assembly, SOPA, and Age Scotland Regional Ambassador for the Borders, and Mr. Graham Galloway of Kerry Connections wish to come as a deputation in connection with Councillor Bell's motion, item 4. Are members agreed that that deputation take place?
Agreed.
Agreed.
I'd also just like to intimate that we have the addendum for item 5, and as the Provost, I'm of the opinion that the addendum should be considered at the meeting as a matter of urgency, as members must be provided with the most up-to-date position regarding the effects of political balance on committee. And I just want to bring that to the attention. The item 3, minutes of council meetings, subparagraph 1, Special Angus Council on the 4th of March 2021, Special Angus Council on the 11th of March 2021, and Angus Council on the 18th of March 2021. Are we all agreed?
Agreed.
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 And on item 2, for noting only, subparagraph D to K. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll now ask if Diane Finlay and Graham Galloway would like to come forward and give their deputation. There are a total of 10 minutes. It could either be 7 and 3 or 5 and 5. But you're welcome to come forward now and speak.
Shall I go first? Good afternoon. I'm very grateful to the council for giving me the opportunity to address you, and it's most particularly special for me because Angus is my home county. So speaking as the chair of SOPA, Scottish Older People's Assembly, and I'm also regional ambassador for the Borders for Age Scotland, and we're very pleased that you are giving consideration to appointing an older people's champion, as are a growing number of other councils in Scotland. We feel it's important, the building of a network of 32 older people's champions, and that it would be a great benefit, particularly to the older people, but it would also, I think, be helpful to you in your role and health and third sector, who are all responsible for organising the services. Quite a number of those already elected as older people's champions are SOPA members and attend our meetings and our events. And both our organisations would be keen to work with and support the growing network. Both organisations attend regular meetings of the Older People's Strategic Action Forum. That always excites me, the action bit, called OPSAF, and that's chaired by the Minister for Older People, and along with all representatives from other organisations, national organisations who look to the interests of older people. The Minister has given her support to the building of the network, and so there is strong support around for this. I would say the appointment of an older people's champion would be an important and generous gesture to the older people of Angus after a particularly difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Galloway. Graham Galloway.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you, Provost. Thank you, Diana. I'd just like to say thank you to Councillor Bell and Councillor Devine for inviting me to speak today as well. I'm Graham Galloway. I'm the Chief Officer of the Kerry Connections Dementia Support Charity based in Kerrymuir. And I just wanted to speak a little bit how beneficial I think this motion will be for people in Angus who are living with dementia. There's a common misunderstanding that dementia is a natural part of the ageing process. This is untrue. It's a disease of the brain and not everyone will develop it. However, the biggest risk factor for developing the condition is age. For every 5 years of age over 65, we see an approximate doubling in the number of people developing dementia within that age bracket. So a person's risk of developing dementia rises from 1 in 14 over the age of 65 to 1 in 6 over the age of 80. Another common myth about dementia is that it's all about memory loss. While this is indeed a very common factor in many types of dementia, there are other losses that come with the illness that are preventable. Loss of opportunity to remain active in the community, loss of agency about decisions about their life, and loss of a voice to tell their own story. Scotland is an ageing population, and the numbers of people in Scotland living with dementia is predicted to rise significantly in coming decades because of this. Currently, there are 90,000 people diagnosed with dementia in Scotland, but this figure is expecting to rise to around 164,000 by 2036. This past year has been incredibly difficult for everyone, but it's been particularly hard for people living with dementia and their family carers who care for and support them. Alzheimer's Scotland's report, COVID-19, The Hidden Impact, found that the disruption to daily routines, social interactions, and health and social support has had a negative impact on the physical and mental health of people with dementia and their carers. There has been faster cognitive decline and an acceleration of the progression of the symptoms of many people's dementias. Carers are also experiencing significantly higher levels of stress as a direct result of the demands of caring for people with increasingly complex needs, while at the same time having limited options for meaningful respite. Many of them have hit or are hitting crisis points, with their own physical and mental health being adversely affected. The Scottish Government's Dementia and COVID Recovery Plan, published last December, has set out several commitments from the government. These include specific commitments around older people's mental health, supporting people with dementia to live safe and well in their own homes, and to work with local authorities, health and social care partnerships, community groups and charities to make our communities dementia friendly. Scotland is in many ways leading the rest of the UK in how we support people with dementia. The fourth Scottish National Dementia Strategy, which was delayed last year due to the pandemic, is now starting to develop, and there are wide-ranging consultations beginning across Scotland with both statutory and third sector dementia professionals. But perhaps more importantly, people with dementia themselves are involved in shaping what this next strategy will look like. Other exciting developments include the new Brain Health Scotland programme, which aims to promote the idea of brain health across Scotland and will develop a network of brain health clinics. We now know that many dementias start to develop during middle age, and that by looking at certain lifestyle changes, we can reduce the risk of developing them by up to 40%. Many of these healthy lifestyle choices are the same as those which can protect against cancer and heart disease. Regular exercise, a balanced diet, not smoking, drinking to moderation, and managing stress and mental health. And vitally important, staying socially active. There are great examples of innovative dementia work in Angus as well, with Alzheimer's Scotland's Resource Centre in Arbroath and numerous other groups in every town and village providing much needed local support. The charity I work for, Curry Connections, opened the first dementia meeting centre in Scotland in 2019. This evidence-based model of social dementia support was first developed in the Netherlands, and there's now serious interest across the whole Scotland around the model. I now chair a working group that has membership from Orkney all the way down to Peebles and the Borders. The incredible work our local communities pulled together the incredible way our local communities pulled together to support people who were shielding last year has also been truly inspirational. It's clear that as we come out of this crisis, it is imperative that we continue to support all of our older citizens, but especially those who are the most vulnerable and marginalised. The proposed Older People's Champion will ensure that these voices are not forgotten about or excluded from local democracy. So I'd encourage you all to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Galloway. Are there members who would like to ask either Mrs. Finlay or Mr. Galloway any questions? If anyone, Mr. McCaskill, would maybe.
Provost, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much.
There is.
All I'd just like to say to both the speakers there, thank you very much. Particularly, you know, to Graham Galloway, who I know very well, done a lot of work in this field. So I'll now pass on to Councillor Bell to go forward with her motion.
Provost, Councillor Derno does have her hand up. I've just seen that. So
I didn't see it, but that's fine. Carry on.
Thanks, Provost, and thanks to Diana and to Graham for your presentation. I'd just like to ask, when do we think that the Arbroath Dementia Centre will be open again? Because I've done lots of work with them there and we'll have lots of fun. And obviously it's been closed for such a long time. Do they have any idea of when it could be opened again?
I'm not sure about that, Councillor Durno. Our both centre is run by Alzheimer's Scotland, who we do certainly work in partnership with, but we're an independent charity. Certainly our new building in Kirriemuir, we are hoping to open by round about the middle of June. We currently have building work underway. So I would like to think Alzheimer's Scotland will be looking at similar kind of timeframes.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Any further questions? Okay, right, Councillor Bell.
Okay, thank you, Provost, and my gratitude to Diana Finlay and to Graham Galloway for their contributions today. I'm sure you'll agree that they were incredibly powerful. In Angus, we have a population that is living longer. Over the next 25 years, the National Records of Scotland predicts that there will be a continued decline in all age groups under 64 years of age. The groups of 75 to 84 and 85 plus are increasing. Those in the age group 65 to 74 will remain fairly constant. So it's clear the over 75 groups impact most on the need for services. The increase in the number of people over 75 between now and 2023 is 12.1%. That rises to 30.3% by 2028. And you'll find more details in the Age Scotland briefing note that I circulated just in advance of today's meeting. At the Angus Health and Social Care Partnership, IJB, on April the 21st, we discussed a number of key papers relating to the impact of demographic change on older people's services, on mental health, and of course the overarching finance report. We know people are living longer in Angus, which is great, but we also know that people are living longer with a wider range of complex health conditions that reduce the quality of life for them and increases the need for care services and on their immediate family. The role of unpaid carers has underpinned our own care services for decades, and I won't belabor the point about the importance of unpaid carers and the impact on older people during the COVID pandemic. Our other speakers have covered that already. What sprang out for me is that, taken holistically, those papers completely reinforced the need for an older people's champion. They beautifully made the case for prioritising focus on whole life health promotion and health improvement messages across all sectors. I made the case that day and I make it now. We need to deliver on our council plan to make Angus a great place to live, work and visit for all our citizens. We want our citizens in Angus to live longer, healthier lives. We have an equalities champion and a young people's champion, which are both important roles. I believe it's time to place additional emphasis on our elders who've contributed to and enhanced our society over their entire lives and who are deserving of the increased focus on their rights, their dignity, the respect they're due, and the advocacy that this role can provide. And of course, it's not only about older people who need care. As we grow older before we can retire, and I'm thinking especially of all our WASPy women here, we expect more of our older people in the workplace too. It's also about valuing the many who fall into the numerical age brackets who simply do not regard themselves as older people, who are eager and energetic, willing and able to contribute to our thriving communities. And again, the pandemic threw into stark relief the importance of our volunteer community. Our third sector would collapse without the dedication and commitment of our very many volunteers across the county who continue to serve long after retirement from paid work, but whose roles are no less important for all that. There is so much more we can and must do. I therefore ask Council to support the campaign by Age Scotland and SOPA. An older people's champion who's a councillor will advocate for older people to make sure these voices are heard for all the reasons highlighted today. Council, I propose this motion, and I also propose Councillor Lynn Devine as our older people's champion, should we approve it. And I do understand that the Provost is keen to second me today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell. We'll deal with the first part first, and I agree with everything what's been said by Councillor Bell, as I am one of the numerous members of our council who are actually in the over 70 bracket. I realise and completely empathise with what's been said, and I have great honour to actually second this motion. Are there any comments on the first part of the motion?
Councillor Devine, Provost.
Yeah, Councillor Devine.
Well, seeing as I'm mentioned in the motion, Provost, I was hoping that I would be able to say something, if that's okay.
Yes.
But also, obviously, I'd like to thank Diane and Graham for their full presentations as well. And I would certainly welcome a rollout of the dementia meeting centres across Angus. In her speech, Councillor Bell has also given compelling reasons for our council having an older people's champion, so I won't reiterate them. I see this as a really hands-on job, working along with the Provost as a veterans champion and Councillor Laurie as young person's champion, as I personally consider intergenerational work really a great way to foster respect on both sides. It should also be a listening job, meeting with older people wherever they are, and thankfully that's probably going to get a bit easier soon. And hearing their concerns, bringing their views to the council so that we can take them into consideration when formulating policies. It's also about ensuring people know where to go for support and or company. In Angus, we already actually have quite a good network of support organisations for older people. Obviously, there's the dementia centres that Graham has talked about, but there's University of the Third Age, Re-Engage, which used to be called for Contact the Elderly. There's OAP clubs. Churches, of course, provide lunch clubs and a plethora of activities, to mention just a few. Very importantly, there are several physical activities which many older people take part in. For example, seated exercise classes, Tai Chi, yoga, and Angus Alive provides gentle exercise classes as well. But of course, not all older people need gentle exercise because they've actually maintained their fitness throughout their lives and are vibrant members of their society, of their communities. And this is what we need to aim at. As Councillor Bell said, it's wonderful that people are living longer, but we really want them to be living longer and healthier lives, able to participate in society for a very long time. A network of champions is a great way to exchange ideas. One thing which came out of a conversation between two champions was the realization that too few older people were claiming pension credit when they were ineligible for it, mainly because they either didn't know about it or they felt embarrassed about applying. Recently, Standard Life Aberdeen, in a new study, shows that this is stark, I have to say. 66% of people planning to retire this year have insufficient savings and will be living on pensions of around about £19,000 a year. Add to that mix the fact that the majority of women retirees have a whopping 40% less pension wealth than men. And I don't have time to talk about the WASPy women, but we have spoken about them before and the problems that around that. The pandemic has been torture for so many older people as the organisations they belonged to depended on all closed and only a few went online. Relatives couldn't visit either. Many people have lost their partners during this time and have had to grieve alone. The isolation, which was well known about before COVID, has been exacerbated hugely in the last year and a bit. So this is an excellent time to agree to Age Scotland and SOPA's campaign to have an older people's champion in Angus. Please support the motion.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? Are we all agreed that we have an older people's champion in Angus?
Agreed.
Agreed.
And you see that Councillor Bell has nominated Councillor Devine as the older people's champion in Angus. And I am very happy to second that, because there you've seen Councillor Devine, who's quite emphatically showed that she's really up for the job. Is there any questions or on that, Councillor Sturrock?
No question.
Comment?
No comment.
Are we agreed to move that Councillor Devine becomes the older people's champion in Angus?
Agreed. Agreed.
Very much. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Diane and Graham, for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Provost.
Okay, we can now move on to item 5. And remember, I brought it to your attention about the addendum, and this is what we've really got to follow. And you will see the recommendations on the addendum from 1 to 4 to note, and 5 to 7 to approve. Have we got any questions or comments on that? Questions first.
Provost, could I just interject at this moment in time? The deputation is still in attendance at the meeting, Provost, so I think it would be appropriate for them, you would maybe just invite them to leave the meeting for the remainder.
Thanks very much, Mr. McCaskill. I thought they actually had left, but thank you very much, both of you, as I said, to Diane and Graham, for your comments, and if you wish to take leave, please do so. Okay, if we could go back on to item 5.
Provost.
Yes, Councillor Fairweather.
Yeah, you seem to be missing hands, but can I just give notice of a motion for recommendation 8 in the addendum? This is the part for appointments only, Provost.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Fairweather. To go back, as I said, items 1 to 4 for noting, and items 5 to 7 for approval. Any comments, any questions? I can't see any hands, so I'm reliant on Mr. McCaskill telling me.
Yes, Provost, I will advise you if there are any hands, and currently there are none.
Okay, thank you very much. We go on then to paragraph 8 of the addendum. Councillor Fairweather.
Provost, right, my understanding was that we were going to ask who our committee members were going to be. Can you just check with Mr. McCaskill, please?
Yeah.
Through you, Provost. Yes, at this stage in the meeting, given that we have approved the recommendations which relate to the table and the allocation in table 4 of the committees in the addendum, could I just ask first of all, from Councillor Fairweather, if you could formally intimate to the meeting the membership of the committees based on the allocations, and following on from that, Councillor Devine, if you would be able to do that in terms of the SNP group, please.
Pleased to do so, Provost. For the Children and Learning Committee, we have Councillor Vaughan, Councillor Sturrock, Councillor Brown, Councillor Angus McMillan Douglas, Councillor Bob Miles, Councillor Ronnie Proctor, Provost Ronnie Proctor, Councillor Gavin Nicholl, who is to replace Councillor Stewart, and our new member, Councillor David Lumgear. For communities, we have Councillor Salmond, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Braden Davey, Councillor Fotheringham, Councillor Lumgear, Councillor McLaren, Councillor Moore, and Councillor Proctor. For P&R, we have myself, Councillor McMillan Douglas, Councillor Sturrock, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Davey, Councillor Miles, Councillor Salmond and Councillor Vaughan. Do you require for development standards and licensing, because we've had to take particular councillors off? The councillors coming off in development standards will be Councillor Bob Miles, and in civic licensing will be Councillor Gavin Nicholl. That leaves for development standards Councillor Lumgear, Councillor Nicholl, Councillor Fotheringham, Councillor Moore, Councillor McLaren, Councillor Brown and Councillor Sturrock. For licensing, it's Councillor Fotheringham, Councillor Moore, Councillor Lumgear, Councillor Brown and Councillor Fairweather. You.
Councillor Devine, do you want to give the SNB group?
Well, I didn't know I had to give all the councillors because we are remaining the same, apart from children and learning, where Councillor Duff is coming off. Everything else is the same. Do I have to go through them all? I can't go through them all. I don't have them all in front of me.
Provost, I think that's satisfactory in terms of the one particular change, and as Councillor Devine has intimated, all other memberships which I have here remain the same.
Thank you.
Right, Provost.
Through you, Chair, could I just also now confirm the other members of each of the respective committees are from non-aligned. For Policy and Resources Committee, it's Councillors Boyd and Laurie. For Communities Committee, it's Councillors Cheap and Speed. And for Children and Learning, it's Councillors Speed and Laurie. In terms of development standards, it's Councillor Cheap. In terms of civic licensing, Councillor Boyd, and scrutiny and audit, Councillors Boyd and Laurie. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castle. Right, and as I said, just to go back there, are we agreed that the recommendations on 1 to 4 and approve 5 to 7? Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. Right, Councillor Fairweather, your motions.
Thank you, Provost. I believe it has been circulated and we are to do it one by one. It is for appointments. So the first part, number 1, I move the removal of Councillor Speed as Vice Convener of Children and Learning Committee.
And Provost, I second that motion.
Are there any amendments to that?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment proposing to keep Councillor Speed as Vice Chair of the IGB.
I would second that, Provost.
Wait a minute.
IGB, it's the wrong.
You're on the wrong one.
So, sorry, apologies. My sound is breaking up a bit, but I would give notice of amendment for that situation.
Thank you.
To go back to the first motion put forward by Councillor Fairweather, are there any amendments?
Provost, can I just say I haven't had a chance to read this?
Didn't either.
Mr. McCaskill, that's we discussed this. And it should be, but basically, I mean, what we are just saying is that Councillor Speed, which is no longer in administration, is being removed as the Vice Convener of Children and Learning.
Sorry, we've just had the document circulated, though, so could we get a couple of minutes just to read it?
I'm in meetings just now.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I'll be about an hour.
Provost, just to clarify to members, The document that has been circulated, it does have a number of motions all contained in that paper, but we are determining each motion separately to that. So the first motion was as intimated by Councillor Fairweather.
That's exactly right, as Mr. McCaskill said. Each amendment or each change is
Point of order, Councillor Provost.
Sorry?
Point of order, please.
No.
Point of order, Provost.
Let me finish explaining. Carry on, Councillor Fairweather.
I'm just wondering what the point of order and what the number is for the interjection.
Yeah, I wonder that myself, and all I'm doing is instructing or informing people of what the procedure is for these changes. And the procedure is that each change there will be a motion for each of the changes, and they will be dealt with one by one. Okay, and it's not as difficult as it seems. It's basically taking off people who were in the administration and replacing them as required by people who are in the administration, and that is the leader of the council is proposing each. We'll vote on them. If someone got another nomination and wants to put in an amendment, that's their right completely to do so, and we would then vote on them. If not, we then agree the motion, or if you want to abstain, you abstain. It's just as simple as that. Now, is there any other points of clarification needed?
Yes.
I was just going to make the point that Councillor Hands can't read the motion whilst we're all talking, and she's not been afforded the opportunity, and did ask for a couple of minutes to read it. I was trying to be helpful for us as a council in doing what we need to do to ensure that all members have the same ability to read the paper.
Yeah. Provost, can I just say I'm capable of saying that for myself as well. And my point of clarification, and if you like the standing order, it's a standing order relating to orders of the meetings. I think it's standing order 16 or 17. Now that we've been issued with a document and it's sent, if we don't need to read it, why were we sent it? And if we've been sent it, affording other councillors to be able to read it, I would like to be given that same opportunity. It won't take me long. I just need silence to do it.
Right, okay. Thanks very much for that, Councillor Hand, and I appreciate what you're saying. How long do you think you'll need? 5 minutes, did you say?
I've no idea because I don't know how long the thing is, but I shouldn't take too long. If I get silence, I'll be very quick. I'll come back to you as soon as I've read it.
Well, I think in all fairness, it's maybe wise that we have a short adjournment, enable you to do that. Or you just wanted to move on?
No, agreed. Agreed, Provost. Right, 5 minutes.
Okay. It's now 14:38, 14:39. So we come back in 5 minutes' time.